What's going on, everybody? I'm so happy I cannot talk. What is going on, everybody? And welcome back to another segment, another episode of the Late Night Show with Dr. Kojo. I'm your host, Kojo Sarfo, and I'm checking in from beautiful Los Angeles, California. It wasn't sunny today, but beautiful LA. And we have a very interesting topic to talk about tonight once again. So you all go ahead, make yourself feel at home. Austin, what's going on? I'm happy to see you, Austin. I'm checking in from Los Angeles, California, and I would love to know where everybody is checking in from tonight. So we're going to be talking about what I would be saying if I had the chance to sit down with Will Smith. And I think a lot of people can benefit from this. So I hope it's helpful, right? So let's get into it. We got Michelle from Texas. Austin, I appreciate you. Thank you, my guy. Appreciate you. Noah from Philly. I've never been. I've just driven through Philadelphia, but I want to go one day. No, what's going on, my guy? Miami, Florida, in the house. Boca Raton. So South Florida, okay. Buffalo in the house. What's up? North Carolina, what's going on? Somebody saying good night. Okay, well, I'm just getting started, but we save all these lives, so you can go back after the fact and watch it. Oklahoma in the house. We got my man Cody. As a lady, my bad. Cody from Dallas, Texas. Texas again, Mississippi in the house. People from the SIP, Fort Worth. I was hoping. Yeah, so Shirley wants to know what I would say to Will Smith. Okay, Arkansas, Dallas, Fort Worth, Northwest Minnesota. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about it. So we all know what happened at the Oscars. What was it, about almost a week ago? I was there, myself, and I wasn't sure what was going on. But the smoke is cleared almost, and now everybody's talking about Will Smith, Chris Rock, this, that, and the third. And I had a chance to talk about this on my morning show, my first ever morning show I did earlier this week, and I gave my thoughts on it. And my thoughts have not changed since I first spoke about this. It's not changed at all. But I was talking. I always want to talk about things with empathy, right? You have to approach situations with empathy and love, and make sure that you are not, you don't want to be too hard on somebody, but you have to get certain points across, right? So I want to start by saying that before I talk about what I would say if I had a chance to talk to Will Smith, I want to start by saying that I don't condone violence at all, and putting your hands on anybody is unacceptable, right? So what happened at the event was assault. Just there's no way around it, right? I've had so many friends who have talked about this and posted videos, and I haven't even had a good friend of mine who made a video about this, and I commented and I wrote, I took my phone out and I was writing. I said, you know, there is no excuse for putting your hands on another individual. Like there's no way around it. Like we cannot dress it up any. You just don't do that, right? What if it was a female comedian who made the joke, right? You go up there and a man puts his hand on a woman. Is it wrong then, right? Do we have to wait for a man to put his hands on a lady before we can say that's wrong? So regardless of the fact whether it's Chris Rock or Amy Schumer or Tiffany Haddish, you don't put your hands on a comedian, right? You don't put your hands on any other human being, right? And we don't want that, right? So I want to make sure that we're clear about that. And Leilani says, yes, I did not go live last night. I forgot to make the announcement that the fourth show of the week, because we go live 4 times a week, the fourth show of the week. So yesterday's episode, we're going to do it on Saturday. We have a very special guest. We have a platinum recording artist, Crystal K, who's going to be here and talk about music and mental health. But I'm happy that you picked up on that because it means that you're watching from our lives every night. So thank you very much. And Jessica saying, yeah, violence is violence. There's no excuse. And I want to make sure that we get that point across because I started off the morning show. I started off talking about, I respect Will Smith's decision to defend his wife, right? There's nothing wrong with defending your spouse. And I think somebody only caught that part of the segment and they were trying to rip me to shreds saying, you can't condone violence, blah, blah, blah. But if they had watched the whole live, right, you would have seen where I said, I do not condone violence at all, right? And for the situation of the Oscars, it was a lose-lose, right? Chris Rock made a joke that was in poor taste. I've heard worse jokes, but if the joke is offensive to Jada, you have to validate people's feelings, right? If somebody doesn't like it, they don't like it, you know. And even though I did see Will Smith laugh at the joke initially, which I thought was curious, and he only got upset when he saw his wife's reaction. Either way, you know, she didn't like the joke. So we still have to validate and respect her space, right? But we don't condone the act of putting your hands on somebody else, right? So now that we've gotten that out of the way, what's Rory saying? Empathy. What's with no empathy? Uh, Rory, hear me out. I agree with you that he should not have put his hands on Chris Rock, right? Because that's unacceptable. And I don't care how hurt you are about a joke, you know. And I respect, you know, Jada's battle with alopecia, and you know, this is a mental health channel, right? So we respect and validate everybody's feelings, but at the end of the day, you do not put your hands on anybody. So, Rory, I do agree with that. But here's the thing. So I think Will Smith was wrong to put his hands on Jada, right? But now that this thing has happened, where do we move? Like, how do we move the conversation forward? And if I were to speak to Will Smith, I would start by saying, "How are you?" Just straight up, like, "How are you?" Like, "How are you doing?" You know, because for somebody who's an actor like him, right, and a very successful actor here in Hollywood, for somebody like him to, and that was his night. He won the Oscars for the first time. This was your night. This night was for you. This night was for the Williams family. This night was for you. You know, so for somebody who, and I think he knew he was gonna win too, right? Because I watched the movie. The movie was outstanding. So sometimes you go into like an award ceremony, like, I think I'm gonna win this Grammy or this Emmy or this Oscar. So he won. So we shouldn't be talking about this slap. We should be talking about the accomplishment. But he went ahead and he put his hands on somebody, right? So for somebody to put his hands on somebody on such a public stage, my question, right, as Dr. Kojo, I'm trying to figure out what is going on emotionally, right, to get you to be at the point where you resort to that, right? To go up and approach, you know, somebody on such a public stage, and then this is international, everybody's watching, and to put your hands on them, you know, there's a lot of inner turmoil that could be going on, right? I don't know Will Smith, not a patient of mine, never spoken to him. I'm not diagnosing him, you know. I'm just saying, as somebody who goes up and you put your hands on somebody, there has to be a lot of inner turmoil and, you know, a lot of resentment towards something, right? A certain thing. So because people are disrespected every day, right? You hear insults, and even me, as a, you know, as Dr. Kojo, I just got a DM from somebody who said your content is so boring, but I don't know why I can't stop watching, right? So people say things all the time, right? But we have to know that we cannot react in a certain way. So for him to be at the point where he went and struck another individual, it almost indicates to me that he could be on the edge, right? You know, and those type of comments or having that reaction from his wife, you know, it's gonna put you at a point. And here's the thing with, you know, like a behavioral disturbance, right? Going out to hit somebody or, you know, maybe hurting yourself. And I don't want to take it too far, but anytime you have an exaggerated reaction to some form of hurt, right? It means that you could potentially do something that could jeopardize not only you but your career. You could hurt somebody else, right? You put your hands on somebody, you could hurt them, you know. So to get to that point, I ask, what's going on emotionally, right? And I'm looking here at people saying this is not Chris Rock. This is not. It's not about Chris Rock's first time or not saying what he said, right? Chris Rock can make all the jokes in the world, and I would hope that he doesn't, right? About somebody's medical condition, right? But he can make all the worst jokes in the world. You still cannot put your hands on another human being, right? There's just no excuse for that, you know. So if somebody does that, it means that you're at a point where anything that is said about a certain thing is going to affect you so much to the point where you're going to lash out and do something that is not characteristic of you, right? And as somebody who has worked in the correctional setting, right? I've worked in jails before, I've worked in prisons, and I've had patients who are doing time for decisions that they made like that. You know, like they didn't have a lot of time to think about it. It was impulsive, right? It's not compulsive behavior. There's no like need to like do this thing to relieve anxiety, right? This is not OCD. This is an impulsive type of behavior that you made because you felt something and you said, boom, I'm going to act. You feel hurt, shame, boom, all right, I lash out, right? And for me watching, as a black man too, we have this stereotype where people think black men are aggressive and black men are confrontation first and violent. And I think that's not true. Like if you see me, like as I was leaving the Oscars, it's funny. I was leaving the Oscars, and then a lady named Stacy saw me. She's like, Kojo, and then she gave me a hug. We took a picture. I posted here on Facebook. Like, as black men, we're not looking to. I'm looking to hug people, right? And I would say the majority of black men are just people that I know. We're not looking for a fight. No, we're just human beings. We have feelings. We have emotions. We cry, we laugh, just like you, if you're watching at home. So anything that I see online that perpetuates that stereotype of black men being aggressive, it makes me be like, that's not the case. But somebody can take that one scenario and say, Will Smith, blah blah blah. But I see somebody who was hurting, because if he laughs at the joke initially and then he sees his wife's reaction, he's hurting, and there's something within that relationship that maybe it's something that maybe couple. I'm not saying that they need therapy. I don't want to diagnose anybody, but there's potentially room for improvement, right? Where you could identify a certain issue and figure out how to deal with things as they come, right? And being a public figure is way different from being your average everyday person, right? And if your wife is doing the red table talk, like you all are talking about things publicly, and it's difficult to handle issues like when they're public because everybody knows about it, right? And I'm not gonna go into what uh you know I'm not gonna go into the infidelity or the open marriage or nothing like that because I don't even know all the details, right? So I'm not gonna speak on somebody's marriage and I don't know the details because I see memes online that so and so touched so and so's what. So I don't know. So I'm not gonna speak on that, right? What goes on in their marriage is what goes on in their marriage, and I respect that. And if they both know what's going on and they're fine, I love it. I love it. But with the online bullying, and I mentioned this in the other live, right? With the online bullying, with the ridicule, you know, uh, if I were to talk to Will, I would ask him about his feelings about this. How does it feel when you see a meme, making fun of you or making fun of your wife or, throwing in Tupac or this person or that person, and it's okay to feel hurt. It's okay to be jealous. It's okay to feel all these emotions, right? But if you can feel these emotions and you can process them, that's why therapy is a beautiful thing. If you can process these emotions, you can get to the point where somebody says something about you, you feel hurt, you feel shame, you feel anger, and within you're upset, but you process your emotions and you realize, all right, so and so called on my wife. I wanna I wanna punch him in the face, right? There's nothing wrong with wanting to punch somebody in the face. Let me put that out there. Somebody disrespects you and you want to knock them out. I've had that, at times, like even last year, I can think of a situation where I wanted to knock somebody out. I'm just being honest, right? I just wanted to clock somebody because of something that they had done. And when I sat down there and I gave myself time to think about it, I said, Kojo, I'm angry, I'm hurt, I'm embarrassed. I want to hit X, Y, and Z individual, but I don't really want to hurt this person. I just want to express my pain, right? I don't want to inflict damage on somebody else. And if you punch somebody or whatever, you might feel good in the moment, but after the fact, you're like, damn, I should not have done that. Now this person is in the hospital, or maybe they beat you up, or maybe I'm in jail. We don't want these things to happen, right? And Kate has this comment that I highlighted. And for me personally, like I'm out here, I'm in LA, my brand is, we're getting bigger each and every day, and we're posting a lot of information that is, I hope, is helping a lot of people, and I'm happy that I get to post this mental health information for you all. So that makes me happy. But as your brand expands, I think to myself about, should I get married? What type of marriage would I want? What type of, how would the lady be? Like all the details. Now I don't know all that stuff, and it's not for me to figure out right now. I got to focus on what's in front of me. But I for sure know that I do not want a public marriage, something that's under the microscope. I personally, I know my limits. I don't want that. So maybe that's what the Smith family wants. And if that's what they want, that's fine. And a lot of people are giving their opinions on what happened at the Oscars, and they're not taking a mental health perspective, and that's fine because maybe they're not a mental health professional, right? And I'm not like all upset at Will Smith, like, oh, you messed things up. No, because he's a human being, right? And he did something that wasn't characteristic of him, and he more than likely is hurting. He needs us to show him love, show him grace. And I think people don't realize that you can hold somebody accountable and say, hey, what you did was unacceptable. You should never do something like that again. What you did was you should have been thrown out of the Oscars. You should have been like, whether you're Will Smith or whether you're a D-list celebrity like Dr. Kojo, right? Or somebody who's not as up there in the grand scheme of things. You put your hands on somebody in a public event, you should be escorted out the building. Like, that's what should have happened, right? Regardless of if you're Will Smith or somebody else. But you can say that and say, hey, that should have happened. But at the same time, you're a human being, and we can't be like, oh, we're not gonna ostracize you, or it's not meant to be punitive. Like, you have, when you do things, there are consequences to what things that you do. But at the same time, you have to show that person love, and on the back end say, hey, this, grab a seat. What's going on? Like what's really going on? Like what's really going on to the point where you can lash out at somebody at the Oscars. And I like what Brittany's saying here. Props to the comedian for keeping this. Yeah, Chris Rock. I gotta give him props. Because if you watch the video, right, it's funny because I wasn't like right there at the Oscars. Like, I don't have the good seats, but like when I watched the playback, Chris Rock says it was a GI Jane joke, dude, and then the Will Smith replied, and he cussed. And we don't cuss in this channel, so y'all can go back and watch and see what Will Smith said. But as they're going back and forth, right before Chris Rock said that was the greatest night in television history. I think for people watching at home, I think the sound went off at some point, so I don't think you all could hear. But right before Chris Rock said that was the greatest night in television history, if you look at Chris Rock, like his mouth was moving, but words weren't coming out. And he may have been thinking about saying something back to retaliate verbally, and he didn't. He held up. And I gotta give him credit for that, right? The joke, he shouldn't have made a joke, right? But you gotta give him credit for holding up, right? He could have said something that could have escalated it. Maybe the guys would have been fighting on stage, right? And that would have been a disaster, right? But he held up. There was some restraint there. And yeah, he was stunned. He was stunned, Sarah. So I gotta give him some props for restraining himself. And somebody saying, but it's mental illness. So, well, all right. So, besides the 300 people who are watching now, or the people who are watching the back end, I'm not diagnosing Will Smith with anything at all. I'm not saying he has nothing. All I'm saying is that there was a behavioral disturbance there, and he could have done things better. So this is what I would say to him. I ask him, what's going on? How do you really feel about things? How can we express our emotions in a productive way, right, instead of a destructive way? But I'm not diagnosing him with anything. You just have to make sure I mention that, right? And Bev says that Chris is being used. Yeah. So if you look at, and I'm a big Chris Rock fan, so I know his story. He's talked about being bullied before. He's talked about being in growing up in Bed-Stuy. The kids would take him and sometimes like flip him upside down, shake the change out of his pockets. He even said that there was like some sexual stuff that had happened as well. So maybe some sexual assault. So like this stuff cuts deep, and a lot of comedians have used their painful experiences to to parlay that into a productive career where you become uber famous and you make a lot of money because you took your pain and you made it something that you weren't ashamed of. You told your story. So maybe that helped Chris in this situation, but regardless of the facts, you still shouldn't put your hands on anybody. That's just not just shouldn't do that. This shouldn't do that, right? And once Chastity, I agree, right? Mental illness does not excuse poor behavior. I agree with this, right? So assuming that there's a mental health condition going on, right, or mental illness going on with Will Smith, right? Because we don't know. I don't know, but assuming that someone with a mental health condition does something, you put your hands on somebody. It does not excuse that, right? Because and it's funny because people with mental illnesses are more likely to be victimized as opposed to being the perpetrators. And I think it's important to mention that because sometimes you hear of somebody with like schizophrenia or bipolar, and then people are like, "Oh my gosh, they're aggressive." Like let's watch out that they don't hurt us. But people with mental illnesses are more likely to be the victim. But yeah, regardless, Chastity, I agree. No, it doesn't excuse any type of behavior. I completely agree. Um, and right. Michelle, he apologized. So hopefully he's accepting that um, accountability. And yeah, this right here, this is the thing that was kind of shocking to me. He's had a pretty like scandal free career. So once again, and for you all at home, because people always, ask questions like, how do I know that maybe one of my friends is hurting, or how can I tell that something is going on with them? And normally, when there's a deviation from how somebody normally is, that's a good time to check up on them. And it doesn't mean that they have any type of mental disorder, right, or mental health condition, but that could be a good time to check in on them and say, hey man, what's going on? Like normally, like you keep it cool, or we're just chilling. So, but I recognize that yesterday you had a rough day. Is there something that's going on? Can I help out at all? And then when you come from that non-judgmental perspective, then the person knows that you're not trying to like laugh at them or make fun of them, but like we're on the same team here. Like I'm trying to help you out. I'm trying to help you out. And then I've been seeing this take as well. Once again, no comment. Dr. K has no comment on this. Jada seems narcissistic. I don't know. I don't know her. I cannot speak on this. I don't know. I don't know her at all. But if you are in a relationship with someone who has narcissistic tendencies, it will affect your emotional health. And it's difficult to be in a relationship with somebody who has narcissistic traits, and for it to not affect your mental health, right? But I don't know Jada personally, and I refuse to diagnose. I don't know her, right? I don't know her. But just as a teaching point, what I just said stands. That's true. And if you could give one bit of help advice to Will Smith and Chris Rock, would it be right? All right. So if I could give one advice to Will Smith, I would say, like feel how you feel, right? If you feel anger, hurt, frustration, it's okay to feel that. Allow yourself to go through those emotions. And hopefully, I would tell Will Smith, if you can find like a good professional in your area, a good therapist, somebody who can help you out. So that way you can feel your emotions, but you can find a productive way of channeling it. That would be the bulk of, that would be what I would tell Will Smith, right? But I would give him more of a chance to like speak. I'll let him talk, because he still needs to be heard. He made an awful mistake, right? I don't agree with what he. There's no reason to do that, right? But on the back end, let's help him out. Let's give him a platform to, speak up. And then Michelle, to give Chris Rock advice, I would first of all tell him, I'll start by saying thank you for not uh, for not doing anything back, because somebody hits you, like the first reaction is to be like to be surprised, you're stunned, maybe you swing back, whether you connect or not. You might swing because it's like a reflex, but he didn't swing at all. And after he apologized and said he's not gonna, put Will Smith's wife's name in his mouth anymore, he kept the show going. He didn't have any more verbal attacks. He kept the show going. So I'll start by saying congrats to Chris on keeping his cool. Perfect. Congrats to him on that. And then I would say, you know, and it's tough because comedians at a certain point when you become a big comedian, you have people who help you write the jokes. So uh, there could be a good chance that the likelihood that Chris Rock did not write that joke himself is pretty high, in my opinion, right? From what I know about comedy, the more successful you are, you have people who help you write these jokes and the setup line and the punchline. So it's not like he's a struggling comedian out of New York writing off his own material. But whether somebody wrote the joke or not, you still have to perform it. So I would say, be mindful of, anytime you have an edgy joke, just think about it. Not that you shouldn't say it, but just think about what could happen if you say this joke, right? And nobody should, regardless of how awful a joke is, there's no reason to condone violence, right? All those takes I see online, I personally hate them. People saying, "Oh yeah, that's what happens when you disrespect a lady." No, that violence is not what's supposed to happen when you disrespect a lady, right? If you disrespect a lady or somebody's wife, yeah, defend your lady. Go up and have a conversation. Say, "Hey, you said so and so to my wife. I didn't like it. I didn't appreciate it." But you don't have to put your hands on them. But I'll tell Chris Rock, before you perform these jokes, just think before you perform them. Not that you have to scrap them and not use them, but just kind of think about what the fallout would be should you say this joke. And it's a tough time for comedians because what can you say, right? What can you say? And I've done stand-up comedy a couple of times here in LA, and there's certain things that I just won't say, right? Because I have a mental health community, right? And I'll never embarrass my patients. I never embarrass my family members. I'll never make any type of edgy joke that can make somebody think that I don't care about the people that support me. So it's a difficult time to be a comedian. And when it comes to like advice for how to make it stand up better, I don't think I'm the best person to talk to because I don't have that style of comedy myself where I make jokes that are like on the fence. Like I won't do that. But he's Chris Rock, right? He's Chris Rock. Yeah, think before you speak. Think before you speak. And Christina says, "Yep, I have bipolar mood disorder, and OMG, people often assume we're dangerous." Christina, I completely agree with this. When people hear bipolar, a lot of times that you get people who will be like, and this is just some floss pics from CBS, but you'll see people who will be like, they're bipolar, they're dangerous, or like literally, or if you have a friend, right, and they tell you that they have bipolar disorder, you might be like, "Oh my gosh, like they're gonna flip out on me." Or sometimes it's like if you have bipolar disorder, you're not allowed to like be upset because somebody's like, "Oh my gosh, that's it, they're about to like hurt me." So that's why education is so important. Yesterday was World Bipolar Day, which would have been an excellent day to make some content about bipolar disorder. But I was a bit behind my schedule. But I will make some content educating people about bipolar disorder and the different types, 1 and 2, because I think it's important to talk about it, right? Or cyclothymic disorder, talk about what mania looks like, when depression could be bipolar. It's important to talk about all of these things because I think that'll provide people a lot of value, and it'll let people know that like just because you're bipolar doesn't mean you're dangerous. I know that being in the field, but a lot of people don't know that. So thank you for leaving that comment there. All right, I appreciate that. And Michelle, I appreciate you. We have more educational content on the way. Um, and Jackie says bipolar seems to be overdiagnosed. Oh, okay. Let me go back and look at the evidence. I'm not sure. I would say that I think it might be underdiagnosed, but I need the evidence. I need the evidence, And what's April? What do you mean by this? Um, and Julie says I walked out of the last comedy show because of the isms. All right, so this right here, Julie, it sounds like I'm sure like when you walked out of the comedy show, right? Like when you whatever show you went to, I'm sure when you walked out of it, people were like, who she thinks she is. But this, in my opinion, this is a compared to like assaulting somebody, this is a much more productive route to take, right? Let's say you go to a comedy show, Zuli, and somebody's making jokes that you're like, I don't like that. They shouldn't be talking about this type of person. And you're like, all right, I don't like this show, whatever. It's all good. You take your belongings, you grab your phone, like, all right, guys, I'm out. You know, that's much more productive than like, yelling something, trying to stop the show, or even worse, like putting your hands on somebody. So if you have to leave a show, like that's a much better alternative. Maybe hopefully you leave the show like in between sets, so that way, like you can be discreet. Like I've left comedy shows halfway through, but it's not because like somebody said something that offended me, but it was because like I had to get out of there. It was getting late. I was trying to respect the comedian though. I was trying like I hate leaving in the middle of a set. I've done it once. I had to pee so bad. I was gonna pee on myself. I had to get out. I was about to pee on myself, and then ah, take me back to when I was a kid in second grade. You accidentally pee on yourself, and you feel your pants get warm, and like you can feel the moist. Yeah, all right, that's enough. Y'all get the point. Y'all get the point. Y'all get the point. Uh, and I'll definitely get the point. Michelle says, walking away or speaking up when you're, yeah, I agree. I agree. And there's also a time and place to do this, right? If you're uncomfortable, right? Like, and look, at the Oscars, like, people don't realize, like, that's not the place to have like a meeting, right? And even like up in the front, like I couldn't see it, but up in the front, they said Denzel and other people were talking to Will, trying to calm him down. That's like the joke was bad, but like you've made the situation so much worse because now people are trying to calm you down, and like the tension has been taken away from the show to like you know. So it's like there's better ways to 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 handle things, right? Much better ways to handle things. All right, yeah, Leilani, yeah. If I gotta pee myself, I gotta go. I gotta go. And Gina, I agree. Yeah, I think he saw her on his wife's face and lost control. And yeah, you're right. It's unacceptable. I've had friends who've had different takes, who've got upset at me for saying that, but I just don't think that should put your hands on somebody, because if you, once again, if it was a female comedian, are you gonna go up there and put your hands on her? Is it not okay to do it because it's a lady now, right? But violence, right? Whether it's domestic violence or assault, nobody should ever put their hands on anybody, right? There's only one time. There's only one time that you should put your hands on somebody. And that's when it's time to do the Mickey Ficky. And of course, it's consensual, and they want you to put your hands on them, and y'all go ahead and you find a room and do your thing. That's the only time that you should ever put your hands on somebody, right? But besides that, don't put your hands on somebody. It is not right to do that. It is not right to do that. Oh boy. Only one time to do that, y'all. And she didn't look hurt. She looked hurt, pissed. It's all coming from the same place, right? There's some type of it's still hurt feelings, right? Yeah, Mickey Ficky, yeah. That's the only time you can put your hands on somebody, when y'all are about to go do a grown folks do. Otherwise, but then that's consensual, right? You should never put your hands on somebody if they don't, you know, there's no consent, right? And I think that's something that we should teach kids more in school, like teaching grade school kids, hey, these are boundaries, right? This is so and so space. You don't go to their space without asking them, hey, can I have your pencil? Hey, is it okay if I sit with you? Hey, is it okay if I maybe even hug you, right? We talk about ADHD and sensory difficulties on here, right? Some people might not want to be hugged. Some people might not want you to come in their space and be making like a tapping noise, right? Like ask people, hey, can I sit with you? Can we, like, these are things that we should teach kids at a young age during those formative years, with consent. I agree. Uh, yep. Yep. No Mickey Ficky. No Mickey Ficky without consent. I give you a love of the show for that. No Mickey Ficky without consent. And let me see. Okay, but Mickey Ficky. See what time. Yes, sir. Okay, yes, sir. All right. I forgot I have a meeting with my publicist. Ah, dang it. All right, but before I get out of here, y'all. Before I get out of here, Leilani, back me up on this. I got my sparkling water here, so y'all know what time it is. I can't get out of here without, the water break. So water break time, y'all. Water break time. Let me read some comments while you all get your water. I'm that person tapping. Right, and Michelle. So there's no reason why I should come to you, Michelle, and start tapping things, or like start like whispering in your ear, right? That's gonna not make you have a good day, right? So I gotta say, Michelle, hey, can I sit next to you? Like, are you okay if like I do my work here? And if you say no, then I'll go find, another person call Michelle to bother, right? All right, guys, water break. That's spicy water. So before we drink the water, so 1 second. Almost done. Dang, look at me losing track of time. Mickey Ficky. All right, Crystal Road in there. Cheers. That's spicy water, so it really hits you not in your throat, but like in your throat. Like it's good. It's good for you, yeah. It's time for the water break. It's time for the water break. All right, that's awesome. So I gotta get out of here, y'all, so I can hop on this meeting. Today went by fast. My goodness, they just zoomed by. Wow. All right, y'all. I gotta get gotta get out of here. I love y'all, and we'll have a special episode of the show this Saturday, 6 p.m. California time, 9 p.m. on the East Coast. Or actually, do we reverse it or no? Let me check before I get out of here. We're meeting with it's on Saturday. I want to get that correct. Crystal. Boom, boom, boom. Because I want to make sure we have it correct. All right, so it's perfect. 6 p.m. California time, 9 p.m. on the East Coast. We have Grammy platinum recording artist Crystal K on the show. So it's gonna be very exciting to have her on. It'll be my first time having a guest like in person here in LA. So it'll be great to talk about music and mental health. And I'm looking forward to that. So until then, I will see you all at that time. Have a great night, and I love y'all.